All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the digital toolkit of the modern-day locksmith, the ethical hacker. We're going to dive into the fundamentals of penetration testing, which you'll see is one of the most critical skills in our digital world. So just think about it for a second. Every single company, every government, pretty much any organization you can think of has a digital fortress, right? It's built to protect all their important data. But how do you actually know if the walls have cracks? How do you find the secret backdoors before the real invaders do? And that quote right there just nails it. That's the core idea. You literally hire a good guy to think and act exactly like a bad guy. Now, if your hired burglar makes it to the vault, they don't steal anything. Nope. Instead, they hand you a detailed report on exactly how they did it, so you can go back and seal up all those holes for good. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly is a penetration test, or a pen test as everyone calls it, and what is the mission of the expert who carries it out? Well, at its heart, it's a simulated attack. It's a completely controlled security exercise. You have a cybersecurity expert, an ethical hacker, who is intentionally trying to find and exploit vulnerabilities. The whole point isn't to cause any damage at all, but to find those weak spots before a malicious attacker does. Now, you should know not all tests are the same. In what's called an open box test, you might give the tester the blueprints, things like network diagrams or maybe even some source code to help guide them. But with a closed box test, things get way more realistic. The tester gets nothing but the company's name. That's it. This simulates what a real-world attacker would be starting with. And then you have the ultimate test of readiness, the covert test, also called a double-blind test. In this scenario, almost nobody inside the company knows it's happening, not even the security team. This isn't just about testing your technology anymore, it's about testing your people and their real-time response to what looks like a genuine threat. Testers also have to focus on different targets. An external test is kind of like checking all the locks on the doors and windows from the outside. You're probing websites and public servers. An internal test, on the other hand, simulates what might happen if the threat is already inside. Think of a disgruntled employee or maybe someone who stole a password. It answers that scary question, what kind of damage can be done from behind our own firewall? So to really understand the role of the ethical hacker, you've got to look at the entire landscape. Let's break down all the different players on the field, because once you see them, the whole cybersecurity world makes a lot more sense. Okay, let's break them down. On one end of the spectrum, you've got script kiddies. These are amateurs, really, just using pre-made tools with pretty limited skills, usually just for bragging rights. On the far other end, you have cyber terrorists who are driven by ideology to cause massive disruption. In between, you find the black hats. Those are your criminals motivated by money, and gray hats, who might expose a vulnerability without permission, kind of operating in a moral gray area. But our focus today is on the white hats, the ethical hackers, the pen testers, who use their incredible skills for good. So, what exactly are these white hats protecting? I mean, what are the fundamental principles that they're getting hired to defend? What are the real stakes of this game? Well, it all boils down to something called the CIA triad. And no, not that CIA. This stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means keeping secrets secret, using things like encryption. Integrity means making sure data isn't messed with or changed. And availability means the system is actually up and running for the people who need it when they need it. Pretty simple, right? And this really shows you the two sides of the coin. The goal of security is to uphold that CIA triad, but an attacker's goal? It's the exact opposite, the anti-CIA triad. They are aiming for improper disclosure, that's breaking confidentiality. They want unauthorized alteration, destroying integrity, and they want disruption, denying availability. It's a constant tug of war. Now, to defend the CIA triad, a pen tester needs a super deep understanding of the battlefield. And that means mastering the fundamentals of how digital information actually moves. We've got to look under the hood here, because if you want to find the cracks in the fortress, you have to understand its blueprint. This right here lays out the foundation. A top-tier pen tester needs to be a master of networking, how data travels, how firewalls work, the whole shebang. They need to understand software development, how web and mobile apps get built, and more importantly, where their flaws might be hiding. And they absolutely have to know system administration, how to manage Windows and Linux servers, because those are often the ultimate prize. So when we talk about networking, it's really all about layers. On the left, you see the theoretical OSI 7-layer model that you might learn in a textbook. But on the right, that's the more practical 5-layer model the internet actually uses. Understanding how data gets packaged and sent down through these layers, from the app on your screen all the way down to the physical cables, is absolutely crucial for finding vulnerabilities. At the transport layer, two protocols are king: TCP and UDP. Just think of TCP as certified mail. It uses a 3-way handshake to establish a solid, reliable connection, and it makes sure every single piece of data arrives in the right order. UDP, on the other hand, is more like sending a postcard. It's connectionless, it's super fast, but it makes no guarantees. It just sends the data and hopes for the best, which is actually perfect for things like video streaming or online gaming where speed is everything. So, how do networks tell each other when something's wrong? Well, they use ICMP, the Internet Control Message Protocol. You can think of it as the network's own little messenger service. When you ping a server to see if it's online, you're using ICMP. And if you ever get an error like destination host unreachable, yep, that's ICMP talking. Pen testers use these messages all the time to map out networks and find potential problems. Okay, knowing all the theory is one thing, but a pen tester has to apply it methodically. And, just as importantly, they have to prove their expertise to the people who are going to hire them. Every single test starts with reconnaissance, or recon. First up is passive recon. This is all about gathering intelligence without directly touching the target's systems. You're looking up public records, doing some advanced Google searches. Then comes active recon, where you start, knocking on the digital doors with things like network scanners to see what's open and what's running. And with all this power and knowledge, how does an employer actually trust you? Well, that's where certifications come in. And this statistic really says it all. In a field that is built on trust, a recognized certification is often the first and most important requirement to even get your foot in the door. It's your professional badge of honor. And there are some real heavy hitters in the industry. The Certified Ethical Hacker, or CEH, is a fantastic starting point. The OSCP is famous for being super hands-on. It proves you have real practical skills. And the CISSP is a really high-level certification for security management. Each one validates a different crucial part of this incredibly complex profession. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? In our digital world, where everything from our money to our deepest secrets is stored in digital vaults, maybe the most important person we have to guard it all isn't a traditional guard at all, but the ethical burglar who knows exactly how a real thief thinks.